Here's my current collection of LED light bulbs. I have 9 bulbs right now, and I'm probably done buying new bulbs because I've run out of available light sockets to put them in. But for the time being, I have a fairly decent little collection here of some unique light bulbs. I can imagine in the distant future these will probably find a home in a museum somewhere, just because they're kind of neat to look at, and 100 years down the line, it'd be kind of neat to look at. Anyway, starting from up top, we have the Sylvania 60 watt equivalent LED bulb, Utilitech 60 watt equivalent, Philips 75 watt equivalent, Philips 60 watt equivalent L-Prize bulb, General Electric 40 watt equivalent, Switch 60 watt equivalent, Utilitech 75 watt equivalent, Utilitech 60 watt equivalent, and a 60 watt equivalent bulb that I cannot remember the brand of. So you can see I have 3 remote phosphor bulbs. These 3 here use a remote phosphor, and the other ones all just are direct emission LED. I'm going to go ahead and get these things fired up one by one, just so we can see what they look like. So here's my normal test setup. I have a dimmer switch hooked up to a regular ceramic base, and I'll use this to test the bulb. So first one up is Utilitech 60 watt equivalent. I did a review on this one, and one of the best things about this was its dimmability. So this one goes real dim and then comes back up. So if you want a dimmable bulb, this is probably the best one that I would recommend. Up next is the Philips 75 watt equivalent. This is really a good bulb. For whatever reason, this is probably my favorite, just because it is bright, and it's the one I use the most because it's in my desk lamp. This one also dims. Although it doesn't dim as well as the Utilitech, you can see it shuts off when it's still fairly bright, and the color is pretty ugly when it is dimmed. But a very good bulb. I probably have close to 5,000 or 6,000 hours of use on this one. Runs about 10 hours a day. The next up is the Switch 60. This is definitely a premium light bulb. For one, it's just a work of art to look at, and 2, it's a little bit on the pricey side. But it is a nice bulb. I did a review on this one, and you can see all the pros and cons in that review. This one also dims nicely. Even with the dimmer all the way down, it will still stay lit. So, Switch 60 uses liquid cooling technology to help cool the bulb. Next one up is the Utilitech 75 watt equivalent. This is a remote phosphor bulb. I have not done a full review on this one, but it's a pretty decent bulb. Puts out 75 watts equivalent, and it has a very unique heatsink design that will draw heat in from the bottom, up through these fins in the center, and then out the top. So in a vertical position, this one does a good job of staying cool. It puts light out in a good omnidirectional cast. Next up is the Utilitech 60 watt equivalent. This is one of the first bulbs I bought. It's kind of snow cone style that projects light mostly upward, almost like a spotlight. But you know what? It's a pretty good bulb for projecting light downward. This one also does a decent job of dimming. And it's fairly bright, 60 watt equivalent. Okay, next up is a 60 watt equivalent that I can't remember the brand of, but I got it from Lowe's. This one does a really good job of projecting light downward as well as upward. Okay, so there's that, and this bulb is also dimmable, but it doesn't dim as some of the other ones, although realistically that's about as dim as you'd want to use it anyway in most conditions. So that's a pretty good option. Next up is the Sylvania 60 watt equivalent. It's kind of a unique looking bulb. I did a review on this one that you can check out. Visually it doesn't look as bright as the other ones, but that's probably because it's more dispersed. But this one also dims, and does a nice job of dimming, although once again it doesn't go as dim as some of them. Next one I'm going to do is the Philips L-Prize bulb. This is a very nice bulb. It uses 10 watts of electricity and puts out over 900 lumens. I think it's 940 lumens of light. So this is a very good bulb. It dims down okay, but like I said in my full-up review of this, the light quality gets very, very ugly when it gets dim. It's like reddish gray. But for full brightness, it's a very good bulb, and it doesn't use much power. And the last one I have here is the General Electric 40 watt equivalent. This one doesn't like to play with dimmers. So it's humming and buzzing and flashing. And actually when I turn it down it stops a little bit. It's still buzzing. So this one doesn't like being on a dimmer. And it's the only one of the bunch that's non-dimmable. So that's the LED bulb collection that I have. And that's it. So I illuminated this entire video using a 60 watt regular incandescent light bulb. So that's the old-fashioned technology compared to all the newfangled LED light bulbs. And of course this one 60 watt incandescent bulb uses as much power as about 5 of the LED bulbs put together for the same amount of light.